What you do get why the Rebbe's word itself, the Rebbe's word that Savas Yishmayim is Mechayev Keich Atzmos. That was clear because even the Rebbe says it in Azaloshin that only someone that ainly either B'Siba Shekad Malay could create a yesh that's also ainly either B'Siba Shekad Malay. Again, that this needs a beer. I mean, the yesh Hagashmi has a either B'Siba Shekad Malay. So Harkal is not aware of it. You need, in order for the Eibusha to make it simsum, you need a why isn't the yesh margish the magad? That says because any basolonu shem alikim. What do you need a keich atzmos? But the Rebbe's masber here, it's not just as a helen behester. The first fara yesh is a savagavar. So Zame Sorzach was in savagavar. What type of mitzias is created? As a certain mitzias that is not an extension of anything. Within its mitzias, you don't find any trace to anything before. That's why the Alter Rebbe in Tanya over there, when the Alter Rebbe speaks this in it, the Alter Rebbe connects it to the fact earlier. If you go through the Yigar HaKodesh there, so the Alter Rebbe earlier, when the Alter Rebbe speaks to the Musik of Yeshma'ayin, before the Alter Rebbe says his word, the Alter Rebbe touches up what does Yeshma'ayin mean. So the Alter Rebbe says there not only that the Nivra is not masig the Moker, the Alter Rebbe says there because the Dvar Avaya, the Ayin of the Kem Havis HaYesh is Shalei Be'erech Klal. It's not a metzias legabe the yesh. That's ayin that is any musig. The Alter Rebbe says ayin that it's not the same suga metzias. Or the Alter Rebbe's lashon. The Alter says ein arech klal between the ayin and the yesh lei minei v'lei miksase. So it's not the yesh ma'ayin. The reason why the nivra is not margish the makar is the makar taka doesn't exist by Elam Mishla nivra. The gabe the yesh the makar aliki. This is famous kash. Why do you call it yesh ma'ayin? Why do you say it's a something from nothing? The Devish created it. The answer is that the gabe the nivra the makar doesn't exist. What's considered by Nivra being is something that has a psatzir, something that has an uptight. The makar, not what any parameter that makes what's considered the gabi a Nivra that exists, the gabi a Nivra, the Varavai doesn't qualify in those gdarim of Nivra. It's a different type of mitzias legamri, and not the certain mitzias in ganzen. And the gabi that suga mitzias, so the gabi the yesh, the ayin, the ayin is called ayin. So by Elam Mishla yesh, by Elam Mishla Nivra, there is no makar. So that's not Stam saying that the Nivra is a helen behest, he doesn't feel it. It doesn't feel it because in the being of the yesh, what type of thing was created? A type of thing which doesn't have any trace back to its makar. If you break down what was created here, it has no hemshech at al makar. So it's a yesh on a makar. Vas par azach is gevar azach on a makar. A fully independent being. So that could only be created by someone that's fully independent. That his mitzvah is not a nimshach from someone, but any other in which is nimshach. So any mile in elikos, any in is al nevea mitzad makar. Because there's an Eibush there, therefore, the Eibush is Blikvol. But the Musik of Blikvol is not in the Tchila. The Musik of Blikvol is not a Kadmi. The Musik of Blikvol is not independent. Because no one's going to say that Blikvol is an idea which had to be. If it's an idea, it had to be created. The only Mahus, which did not have to be brought into being, he is only Atzmos. That's the only independent being. Every other idea is created. And Mela, this Havas HaYesh is Dafka B'Keich Atzmos. Das steht ein Sachen in Yigar HaKodesh. And the Alter Rebbe says here much more furnish. The Alter Rebbe in Chassidus, it's also the way the way the Rebbe says it over here so mufurish is in Chavbez. You don't have this other mabar. As he is gesagt mit Azah Pirush. The Alter Rebbe says, but the Alter Rebbe doesn't say it with such a. The Alter Rebbe says, I'm saying if you learn Stamazah, you could argue with the Alter Rebbe's lashon. But the Rebbe touches here over his klar that this Indian of Bris Yeshma'ayin is the Eiris the Mahab of the Yesh. The Eiris Mahab. It's not B'Keich Atzmos directly. Look as I was saying last time. Look what you're going to say. A person throws a stone. So Avada, the Keich that throws a stone originates in the nefesh, but it's not that. First, the Keich the nefesh is there's a gilui. This Keich is open, it's revealed, it's morgish, and then it's at the gilui Keich, it's realized, and it becomes a pu'ula. The pu'ula comes from the Keich the way it is bezgalus, not mitzad the in the way it is be'etzim. So Alter says, who's mahab? Mitzad vas verd is habas. The Savas verd because mitzad the gilei velikos. In some is bizgalus. The fact that the Eibusha's qualities kaviyachal are begilui, are morgish, and as a result, the fact that they're begilui, the is mahava kaviyachal diyesh. Doesn't mean the but the Savas yesh is ayidei Ayidei means that let's say the Savas yesh should be mitzad the kav of bligvol. Let's say in order to create a yesh, you just have to be a bligvol. So we understand mitzad the etzim to know a bligvol the way it is be'etzim, so it's higher than tfisa. Mitzad that vertish kein Savas. First, the Indian of bligvol is bigoli. It's Meir Bizgalus. Mitzad the Tzahara Bizgalus, it's realized and severe that it's Havas Lapel. This Savas Yishmael is a result of the Gilead, of the Gilead Kerch. So the fact that this is going on nivra, which to create a nivra, it's not enough for Indian obliqueful. You need the kech asas of mitzvus musay, and that Indian, the Alter says that the eir is mahavadiyash. The Alter says how is that their eir? So it comes out that the eir carries within it also the Indian of Ein Tchila. There's the Indian of Ein Tchila, the way it is in asas. Then it's kaviyachol meir in eir, and beside the fact that it's meir in eir, it resulted that the air, since the Indian of Ein Tchila is bizgalus, is bigilui, so it affected this havas of a yesh, and the power of Ein Tchila was mizbate, is bigilui in air, and it was mizbate this havas of a yesh gomer.
And this idea of Ein Tchila past is not muchach to be in there. It's a chiddush. The fact
it's a big chiddush. The Rebbe starts off the Sief. The Rebbe says, Indians are sharing in Mamer, who at kedei kach, Shem says, Nasa yadis havas yishmain. You have to understand, if you look in the Perikid Beis, if you speaks in this Sief, what's the whole purpose of this Sief? Perikid Beis and Basi Lagan. If he wants to explain what's the darg of Eitzer. The darg of Eitzer be'emes is l'mayla mala tikes, not l'mada ad tachlis. So this Tikkun Ezer is a big Yisayt of Chassidus about that. Pashas, the Tikkun Ezer is saying, Erin Sof, l'mala tikes mata ad tachlis. What do these words mean, l'mala tikes mata ad tachlis? Chassidus always asks, l'mala tikes mata ad tachlis is the chura akbala. Because the Maila is of Tzir. He's Lamaila, he's Lamata, it's in Yonim of Tzir. Erin itself is Pshitis. So Chassidus is Mazar Fakert, that the words Lamata and Etaras, Lamala and Ketz bring out the Eimek HaBlikvo of this earth. With that, so Tfika wants to bring out, what's the Darg of Eitzer? Is the Darg of Lamaila, Maila and Ketz. That's the Eitzer Lamaila. That's what he wants to get to. In order to explain, we should have a flow. What's the musik of Eitzer Lamaila, Maila and Ketz? So first he's Makdim, what's the ultimate, what's the greatest of the Mata and Etaras? But the Fiedger speaks all the time the musik of blikvul, that Eir itself is blikvul and it's mispashet lamata mata. The idea that the Eir is nichol keich haisabas, Fiedger doesn't mention it. Fiedger says that the Eir is Ein Sof, and that the Eir, not it's only the Eir shelling of the Eir itself is Ein Sof. Why is it Ein Sof? Because me'ein amor. That's it. The Rebbe adds over here that somehow they get to the hemshech haperek. That's not stamas that the Eir is Ein Sof, but what's the degree of the Ein Sof? Why is the Eir Ein Sof? Because Eir me'ein amor, and what's the extent of the Eir being me'ein amor? So there was here that Eir Mein Amar is to the extent that not only that the Eir is Megale in Yana, which have to do with Gilui. If it was just the regular mashal of Eir Mein Amar, the way we understand it in the mashal, and the way we understand the regular concept of Eir Mein Amar, so the Eir only reveals the Yanim of the Makir, which are Begeder Mar, which are a Makir the Gilui. Because even in Pashas, where does Eir come from? Eir comes from the fact, from Manat Shtam, that there's Gilui Lukus. Because the Eivishter is something which is Meir. He's a Makir the Gilui. He's a mar. A mar means that he's azam yisart blikvul, which is expressed in gilui. But the aspects of him which have nothing to do with the Inyan Gilui. Let's say if there would be a deeper element of Ein Sof, which the fact that the Inyan Gilui wouldn't express that element. I was saying last time. There's a blikvul which is mizbate in the Truas HaGilui. The etzem fact that a makir could be begili b'derech shel Eir is only something which has a true blikvul could have the Inyan of Eir. Because shefa is if you're a mugbal, you're shefa. Mash'enkin, if you are an etzem which is not mugbal, so since he's not mugbal that he has to be dafkin in a tzur of etzem, in a built-in mitzvahs, he could also be mizgalim. He could also be begili. So from where stammt Inyan Gilui? Where does Inyan Gilui come from? Inyan Gilui comes from that element of the etzem which mitzad is blikvul, faran Gilui. But the nekudas and etzem have nothing to do with Gilui. That's not luchur not meir in there. That's api pashtas. And that's in the B'Shalom. I'm saying the Nefesh there's other Yanim in the Shemesh which is not Bizgalis. Because the air has nothing to do with that. The fact that the Shemesh says Shira, from that aspect, the Shemesh says Shira is the Eibishter, that aspect is not what brings air. The fact that the Shemesh's light is B'Spashim Derech HaMeil doesn't stem from the fact that it says Shira. That stems from the fact that it has the Tchuna of Blikvul. So the Tchuna of Blikvul is Mizbata in the Inyan of air. But other Yanim that the Shemesh has is not Mizbata in the Inyan of Gilui. It has nothing to do with that. Why does the Nefesh have Seichel? Because a certain element, a quality of the nefesh, which brings out the Inyan of seichel. But that Inyan in the nefesh is mizgala through seichel. But the part of the nefesh has nothing to do with seichel. Er means gilui. So there's an etzem, and er means gilui. Even of derech hamel. Other things, in order for them to be gilui, they have to be misamtzim and come to the mizgeres of gilui. Er is that an etzem is begili b'derech hamel. But er is gilui. So where does the Inyan Gilui come from? The Inyan Gilui Vespashas comes from a makir, which because it's not mugbal, he's mispashet. So that the kuda blikvul, which is bat in That's what it expresses. Mashegin, the kuda is Ein Tchila, that's not misbatin er. Because it's Ein Tchila, therefore it's mispashet. There's nothing to do one with another. Avada, if it's Ein Tchila, it can do anything, but that's not a mucker for er. That's nothing to do with Gilui. Then it can be anything. They're not cheshuvim. Here the Rebbe is saying that the tnu of Gilui, of course, the Inyan Gilui, not Kalim don't possess the Inyan of Ein Tchila, let's say. Because is in Yani, Gilui is Mein Amar, and so Mein Amar also brings it to the Inyan of Ein Tchila. That's a chiddush. The Rebbe says the Lashon, if you look, the Rebbe says the beer bekitzer later. There's other one the Rebbe says more about it, we'll see that later. So let's see the Rebbe says here, because there's a few aces here. That's the extent. Now, what it wants to build from this is not only, once you say that the air has the in of Ein Tchila, there are other words, the Rebbe sounds like is, that we see the epitome of Mein Amar. The Meila, not only the air has in, it's not like, we know that the air has in a bleak vol, he has Mein. That means that the air is Megala, ain't soft the way it is higher than the Musik of air. The same way the air is Megala, the in of Ein Tchila, which mitzad the very nature of air, it shouldn't have been made there. Mitzad the fact that the air is Mein Amar, it's Atkedekach Mein Amar, that's Megala that Indian also. So that means that when we say that the air is Ein Sof, air is the Amitas Ein Sof. That's what you want to bring out. When we understand that air Mein Amar and the extent that it's also Megala the Ein Tchila, that means that the Ein Sof Shabair is not just the Ein Sof which relates to the idea of Gilui. It's the Amitas Ein Sof. If you, that's the epitome. That gives us a deeper understanding what type of Ein Sof is Mizgal in there. Without this, I would say, what's far in from Ein Sof and Mizgal in there? The Musik of Ein Sof, which has to do with Inyan of Gilui, which is expressed through the Inyan of Gilui. It is Megale, a deeper idea of Ein Sof, which is beyond the regular Musik of Gilui. That's one of the points that I wants to bring out with this. That we'll see.
So not only is the herb being Megale the complete relationship, but also the
In the tchila, and that also when we speak about the bleak vol, it's not just the bleak vol that has to do with Inyan Gilui. It's the ultimate bleak vol. Without the avon of air, without the saying in the tchila, I would say that vasfara bleak vol vertens gala. This Inyan bleak vol, which is in vas pasheter bleak vol, with what is it misbata that is bleak vol that is meir begilui. The fact that something can be meir begilui without being mitzan from himself is mitzad tnu of bleak vol of the answer. But that's only bleak vol that's misbat in one tnuah. That's not the ultimate bleak vol, not the ultimate answer. Once you say that the air is megala, not only in Yana which are shaykh to the Inyan of air, also in Yana which are beyond the musik of air. So we speak about the musik of bleak vol that's misgaled through air. The mitis ideas of Ein Sof, the way it is in Atzmos, the Atzmos is Ein Sof, which is a whole different Eifen of Ein Sof, that's also misgaled in air. This is what the Rabbi wants to bring out of here. We'll see why it's negay, but if you look in the Lashon, in the Friedrich Rebbe's Mamer, that's what could be where this Indian is. Rebbe says a Lashon here. This Lashon. You see, okay, this is not. Liyesha atzmas u'chinas pshitas u'chinas insof, gama er u'chinas insof. That the Friedrich Rebbe is kvetching over here that the er of Ein Sof, that the Ein Sof of the er is bedugmas Ein Sof of atzmos. Okay, well, pshitas of atzmos, which is higher than the regular Ein Sof of er. Hey, lo maybe in Nazar.
I don't think so clear the difference. I understand the difference between the Ein Sof and Atzmos and the Ein Sof in, let's say, Nitzchis and Groim. But
I'm saying I want to bring up before this is a simple idea without getting bleak. You say something which is bleak vol. One of the expressions of bleak vol is that it could be begilui. Right? Is there such a what idea of bleak vol is expressed in this union? Or what type of bleak vol do you need to have the Inyan Gilui? That's not ultimate in stuff. Ultimate in stuff is that there's no definitions, no limitations at all. He has a tnuah of bleak vol. The Shemesh also has a tnuah of bleak vol. It's a certain. It's not the ultimate in stuff. Have no gather cloud. There is a gather. His gather is that is beyond the limitation. That's also a gather. That's not a mitzvah in stuff. The Eibishter's in stuff is not that he's unlimited. That he's not limited. He's not defined by unlimited either. It's a whole different musik of Ein Sof. He has no limitations. Cloud. For that Inyan of Ein Sof has nothing to do with air, but air is Inyan Gilui is megala al musik of bleak vol. We don't understand b'chal what's amitis apshitis. This is beyond this Inyan. And the Rebbe wants to say here that the air is megala not only a musik of Ein Sof, which relates to the idea of Gilui, the amitis Ein Sof. That is air is megala. We have to see what's the where it comes out. But if you already learned Mamer, Just like a general word, and this is not necessarily pshat. I just want to bring in a general word. The fact that Rebbe says here that since the air is Ein Sof, so also the elements that Shabbos happen through the air are also happening because of bleak vol. See, this is not. We're going to see later. I don't know if that's the whole point. I think there's more. I just want to bring at this point. If the bleak vol of the air was a bleak vol that was limited to the musik of Gilui, then that wouldn't be mechai that the elements which come from there should be bleak vol. No one's going to say because the shemesh is bleak vol and b'meila it's mispashit. Therefore, the things that the light of the sun touches are going to be affected by bleak vol. The light, if the inner, where is the like the shemesh is bleak vol? Mainly it's mispashit. What does it do with the elements that come from the Gilui? The fact that not only the air is bleak vol, but the elements trying to stab it through the air, these elements are bleak vol. That's because the bleak vol that's in the air is a different level, is a reflection of the atzmos is Ein Sof. Since atzmos is Ein Sof has no hakbalas klal, so not only the air guf is bleak vol, but the nivraim basvarim for the air is also bleak vol. What Rebbe wants to bring out here when you say air in someplace pashtusay, we're not dealing with the regular musig of bleak vol. We're dealing with the Ein Sof of atzmos, which is mizbata through the air. So if you connect the musig of bleak vol the way it relates to the idea of gilui, then the way the Friedrich is matayr over here, the Ein Sof of this pashtusay of the air, voltish given the inyan. Because but the air is meina mar and the air is megala the Ein Sof of atzmos, therefore you have these inyanim in the air. That we'll have to see later. But let me send there.
I don't really understand what's the hechrich. Let's say it didn't reflect atzmos. What's the hechrich that you wouldn't be able to have a bleak vol in Nivra?
I'm saying that's what we have to say. I just want to bring out why does the Rebbe negate to say this.
You're saying this is
We're
the reality.
going to have to learn this.
We're
going to have to learn. We're going to have to learn. What's the Rebbe saying that because the air has that? There's a research. If you look in, how did they write over here? Look at the beginning of Sief Dalet. I don't have the tape over here. If I'm not mistaken, it says Kivan she'eru mein amar, and the means it has that midas Ein Sof. The mele is the hemshech hadvar. Since we explained that the air is the midas eru mein amar, the mele the hemshech. It's not. In other words, the regular idea of bleak vol, the air being bleak vol, we wouldn't come to this nekuda. Okay, we'll have to see We'll have to see. Good. Well, this nekuda, but is also an important part. So the Rebbe says we're like this.
Why is the me'enam more? Me'enam more could mean pashtus me'enam more, not the fact that it reflects in the tchila.
Good. That's the Rebbe says here otherwise. That's what he's saying over here. It's not like that.
He doesn't say the hechrich of the fact that it's in the tchila.
The Alter Rebbe says he brings the raya. He brings a raya. This is what he brings the raya. The Alter Rebbe says that this havas hashmayin is after bekeich and tchila, and this havas is the air. That's a raya that the air contains within it in a vein tchila.
Oh, that's it. The reality is a true reality.
What's the beer?
The fact that I need this chiddush in order to accomplish the fact that there will be Shur's Ein Kate.
That we'll see. We'll see that. Let's see the lashon. Amram bris shmaim bepel. We said last time. What's the word that has to be dafka b'keich atzmos? Yeah, it happens to be that the realist. This is the beer. The Rebbe says it here that there's different knetchen. This musik that yesha nivra is dafka b'keich atzmos. The Rebbe saying it here. What type of yesh? It's not stam, we don't feel the makar. It's a type of yesh which doesn't have any hemshech to the makar. But there's more, I'm saying, there's more connection in the Indian, there's more beauty. Why, like, I don't know if this is muchlech, but in the Basi Aleph, so the Rebbe also brings this nekuda there, that the fact that the yesh is only margish mitzias, the natural sense of the yesh is the mitzias matzmusa, you don't feel, it's not that you're an extension of anything, so that's mitzad atzmus. So the Rebbe brings there that even though it's only a dimyan, it's only a dimyan ba'alma that is only you. But zeh gufa she need meleken, you need the keich atzmos. It's such a lashon. Zeh gufa that the yesh should have such an imagination. Epis, you need keich atzmos. So that if you read the simple reading of Mamer's mashma, in order to have such a dream, you need keich atzmos. Without keich atzmos, you don't have that. You wouldn't be able to dream such a thing with love. That idea wouldn't exist. There's such a thing there, and the Lashen is there's different biyurim. What's the pshat? What this word of the Alter is a general word. In order to create a yesh which doesn't feel its makar at all, you need the keich atzmos which has makar. The question is, not feeling its makar to something which doesn't have a makar, that's a very foul relation. If to make something that doesn't feel its makar, you need to have atzmos which has no makar. So there's different biyurim. There's what I'm saying here, one beard here. It's not something that has no makar. The yesh is not a hemshech. There's no continuation. It's him. And every other inyan besides for atzmos, its very being is an extension of something. So to make something which is, it's not stam, what type of thing was created on something without an extension? That you need only someone which his being is not an extension could create a type of being which is not an extension. That's the beer that's written here. But there's other beer, I'm saying. In Pshat and Tan. It's not the only... In Basi Gane Eir Aleph, there's different types. Stop. And there's Ramon Tavili Kereba, also it's different. It's not that there's one word and that's the only type of why you need Kechatzim. This is just one... Yeah. Just to be aware. Good. So here the Rebbe is going, Bria Shemaim Bepoil, my Kelm Shemaim Lu B'Shakar. Alter says in Tanya that the Bria Shemaim Bepoil, even though the Koyach to create Shemaim comes from Atzmos, but the Bria Bepoil comes through the Kelim. Kelim the Tzfir Shebehem Lu B'Shakar, Me'erin Sof, Sha'eruk Ein Amar, Mosu Atzmos. That's Alter Rebbe over there. Gebur Begash HaKedesh, Shalom Shavdei Shiyah Yesh, as I never became Tzabak V'Lo Midah, and Slavish Shem Kelim. Order for the Nivra to be a Balgvol, so the Erin Sof had to be Mislavish in Kelim. Because if the Erin Sof wouldn't be Mislavish in Kelim, the Nivra would be Bligvol. The Nivra wouldn't be a Balgvol. Wouldn't be Balgvol Midah. So that's why the Eir had to be Mislavish in Kelim. And if Misyachet with the Kelim, in order to have a Nivra Mugbol, so there had to be the Ein Sof, the Eir had to be Kaviyachal Mitzamtzim, and to be Misalim, to have a Shaykhas to Gvol, to create a Nivra Mugbol. But that's the Gebal of the Nivra comes from the Kli. Aval etzem inin is havas hanivra, that doesn't come from the keli. Etzem inin is havas hanivra, the creation that's from the air itself. So here the Rebbe's medayik the lashon. We'll just skip this couple of lines first because mizem moving. Just look at the mizem. Then we'll go back to this one. Mizem moving at kama er mein amar. This is the word that Rebbe wants to bring out. From them, you guys get verstandig. A vifol der air reflects the mar. Means what's the pshat that the air is not an entity for itself. Its whole Indian is the Mars is Galas. Or not only that through the air. Basement epis and the kudah from Elikos, you know the Psatruas Ablikvo of the market, Eloizes, Shemisadayes, Mein Amar, Yesh Begama, Inin Shem Ili Besibashakot Mulay. In the air you also have the Indian that the Abishar is Ainli Ili Besibashakot Mulay, that's also Faran in the air, in the Gili. Yeah, but the question, behind it, let's see this. Sh'im Yesher, Misadas Mein Elor Rabam, Mein Amar. ועד כדי כך, שכאשר השמש ייכנס מתחת לאפק, מזבט הקלוס in the air, מכמה רבי אין ארשתיין יש מכם. The Rebbe is saying over here, even the air mitzad atzmei, is saying, you say that something, this is the Avon of air, if you say that something reflects the mar. What is horrible vad means? That this mitzias has no comparison, has no erech, has no yachas to the market. You say, a person, what's the basic nature of horrible vad? A person has seichel. You have your keich ha-seichel. A person has a keich ha-tnu shviyad. Your keich ha-tnu could carry and could throw very heavy things. The pile, I'm carrying something light. So you're going to say, how much energy was used to carry this thing? I could best carry a very heavy stone, and I carried a pebble. How much energy was used that? You're going to say, a tiny bit of energy you used that. That's not a horrible vad. Horrible vad is when you do something that it's not. You say it's a big guy, and you say he knows how to tie his shoes. That's not even a percentage of his chachma. That's nothing of his chachma. That's a horrible vad. So l'chora, once we're saying that the air is megala so much of the mar in gili, in the mitzvah, in gili, you have the etzem is beyond gili, and you have air. Air is the gili l'kus. There's a mitzvah called. That's a reality of gili l'kus. So the gili l'chora is megala so much, so that shows that the inyan gili is a very chashiv ezach. It's megala the mar. So the gili chashiv ezach. The Rebbe is saying no. The musik of air is that it's a horrible vad. The gili doesn't express anything of the mar. But because the art is nothing, the art mitzad its own point of view is not a mitzvah at all. Mitzad was stamped in agili because the Eibusher is Ein Sof and therefore he's begili. If the yisoid of the earth is because the Eibusher is Ein Sof and therefore there is no limitations to him, so maybe the air is megal everything. Not that the Inyan Hagili is a keli for it. We're not saying that the Inyan Hagili could capture everything. It's a different word. You can say l'mashal that just in the regular way the way we understand it. You have a grace a chacham gadol, a grace tzaddik. And the teva advarim is that a person which has made the gekechis, so the nature is that his mahus is meir bigoli. When you walks into the room, you sense that there's a hechel menshla. It's a shine sein gadlus. His gadlus is meir. Yeah, I mentioned this last time. Fika writes that what's the Baal Shem Tov was behelim before this gadlus of Baal Shem Tov. Not that he didn't say that he's a great person. He looked like a metumtum. He looked like a prasta person. People have he had an appearance of a simple peasant. People give off an appearance of a timtum, as a timtum amech, timtum alev. Looked like this letterless person. His nefesh there was no ha'ara. Adam gadol. The nature is that if there's a nefesh that has keiches hanefesh that are heicha keiches hanefesh, Inside the teva of a davar gadol, it's meir begilui. And the question is, you have a psa ish gadol, and select of sein param a gewisse edelkeit, a certain ruchnis, chves, psa grace, eved Hashem, select of sein param a gewisse edelkeit. How much of his eichos could be meir begoli? A real thing, a real deep thing, can't just be apparent. Apparent, you can only take the shitchis of the inyan. The true godless of him, that can ishmeir sein begoli. Someone that's going to know him, it's a different story. But it should be meir begoli, an apparent on his face, you're not going to see chves, alle seine imke asfaras, you're not going to see on his face. Why? Because Gili doesn't carry that. Certain things are beyond Gili. Gili doesn't carry it. So you're going to say, what? So the question is, so you say, the fact that the earth is Megala, such deep in Yana of Elikos, that shows us that the Inin HaGilui, Lamaila, Gili does capture a lot, Kaviyot. It's a punkt fakert. That's what I'm saying. You're going to say, why, by a person, Lamata, say, how much could Gili capture? When something's shining, how much could shining reveal the tnu of spashtus? How much could it be megala from a makir? So you can say the fact that this the air. What's the in of air? There's spashtus in the gilui velikus is megala so much of the makir that shows that in of spashtus vigilui is a very broad keli telikus. Nish das the word punkt fakir. Mitzad if you're going to be evaluating gilui legabe the etzem, the gilui is nothing legabe etzem. The Eibusher is shles kol atayr. Nothing can express it. Nothing can express in Nayora. There is the whole musik of gilui was this chadish. Gilui is nothing legabe. So why isn't what the shaila is? It's nothing like so why is it there's a musik of mispashtus? The reason why he's mispashtus is not because his spashtus is a suited kli, because of his spashtus is right to express it. Different word. Everything's beyond it. But since the Eibusher is unlimited, if he's unlimited, so miyem lamatasi can be gili also. The Inin HaGili is nevei mitzad his bligvul. If it's mitzad his bligvul, then the gili can express according to the Eibusher's terms, not according to how much gili can handle. If you're dealing with how much the idea of gili can handle anything. Because gili is a chiddush, it's a chiddush ishmael, like every other idea was created ishmael. Why? How is there this phenomenon that the Eibusher is begili? It means he could be morgish, he could be bezgalus. Because the Eibusher is ein sof. If it's mitzad his ein sof, so then even aspects are beyond er could be mer begili. That's in general the idea. Fakir, the vart that er is a arable vad, that's the yisoid why er mein amar. And why the er mein amar in this extent. The reason why lamata the earth is not fully megaled the entire Mayer is because the earth is not fully arable vad. The reason why the shemesh is mispashit is because the idea of ispashtus is an idea which is a kedi to bring out the Mayer. The Eibusher created an idea called er mein amar. That means that there's in the Eifen of Shefa is not going to express fully the Mayer. The Eibusher created this form of gilu of ispashtus that is going to be megaled the Mayer. So how much of the Mayer is going to be nisgaled through ispashtus? How much the idea of ispashtus contains? No idea could express it. Not the idea of er either could express it. Why is there the idea of er? Because the Eibusher is ain't sof. If it's the Eibusher is ain't sof, so the er is megaled according to the Eibusher's terms. Therefore, it's misgaled and er more than the gather of er. Beifin klov. If I say the minion.
Then even the matter the order should be because the order comes from the Eibusher's order.
First of all, the fact that the order comes from the Eibusher's order, where do you get that from? This idea. That the order lamata comes, that the er shemesh lamata comes to the Eibusher's order. I didn't say that just now. Happens to be that it says that there's a sikh about it, but then that verstehen wir that in steht. Al pi pashtus, the er lamata doesn't come from er lamayla. The Eibusher created an idea, which is a mashal, like everything else is a mashal. I'm saying chesed is Mamer is also a mashal for chesed lamayla. You can't compare water lamata to the Eibusher's chesed.
It should have the same dynamics.
But since it's a nivra, so there is limitations. Lepel, there is such a phenomenon as er Mayer. The Mayer is not be'emes b'ligvul. The Eibusher created a phenomena that you have this idea, but not this idea in its full. That's a pasha b'fnatzma, what the marshal on the Eibusher. I mean, the Rebbe says in the Sikha that the Erlam, that's a word b'fnatzma. That's Sikha Emer Chilik Zayin. But that's a lamdis for Zich. It's a lamdis for Zich. What does it mean? B'chat er lamata is ba'mitis mostly the er lamata. It's not such a simple idea. So that's the chiddush god. That Indian is Indian last one. But I'm saying this. That's one word. This is what I'm saying here. So hanish ime yesh er mitzad atzmei. This lashon is an important lashon. Yeah, it's a bit of Mamer. I'm not like I don't know. It's not like we're learning every word with diuk. But this word, this is the Rebbe says. Let's just mizembu at kama eru ein amar. Shlei zu vat shlei nase ze shaykhs lamar el eze shemitzad yisem ein amar. She gamed yin shelei in the bishkat molei. behind us is im hayes. Share mitzad atzmi in el rabal avam and amar. This was im hayes. Really, it's not just im hayes. Even though l'chura we're saying the shitchis of what we're saying is that the air reveals so much. So the inyan hagili, the inyan of espashtus, the idea of air, which was the idea of air, that the etzim is mer kameshu without a tzimtzum, is such a great idea that it reveals so much of the Eibishter. Kalim and keiches, there's different ways of keiches that reveal a makar. So all the other forms of revelation are limited. So they can only reveal small things of the makar. A sheik and air, that's such a high and bitteldik idea, so it could reveal so much. This is fakert. Air mitzad itself, Gilim mitzad itself, is koloch shiv b'chlal legabi the Eibishter, legabi the etzim. And mitzad the air is bittel and the chveis, the hechsta flesh you're going to say, nothing is miskarev to the Eibishter. Nothing is miskarev to reveal him. And that's what air is horrible bad. Air is not a mitzias. That's also lamata. Why when the air is b'shefa, blatter mitzias la'achisel kamashpia. Mashikan ba'er, there is no mitzias outside of the makar. In the mashal also, the whole gili is all because the makar is not mukbal. There's no mitzias to the air itself. The air itself is not existent because the whole right that such an idea exists is all because of the makar's hedrak bal, because the makar's blikvol. Not that the inyan hagili has a tfisas makar. The minute you say that the reason why the air is being megali is because the idea of gili contains a certain value, then it would only be able to express what gili could contain, not what's beyond gili. We want to say vakir. The inyan hagili doesn't exist b'chlal. Varai, the minute the sun goes away, the gili, why is the gili misbattle? If the inyan hagili had some quality, had some value, at some comparison to the sun, so you have its gili. Why do you need to have the etzim? Why, when the etzim is not here, the gili is not here? Because the gili has no existence outside of the etzim. Without the etzim, there is no such a thing called gili. Just the Simid Al Rebbe says that if the Dvar Avai would stop being Mahav the Nivra, the Yesh would stop being. Why would the Yesh stop existing? Because a table doesn't exist. A table is not something that doesn't contain the idea of existence. A table doesn't exist. Why is it here? Because the Eibishter said it should be here. From its own right, a table doesn't exist. If the Eibishter wants to create a table, Gilui has no validity. The musik of Gilui. The musik of Gilui does it have any comparison to that? If it would have, then you could the Shem. If the reason why the Gilui, was expressing the Shemesh has anything to do with the Gdarim of Gilui, then you could detach the Shemesh and you have the Gilui. But since the reason why the Shemesh is made, not because the Gili has some value, it's because the Shemesh is not Mugbal. Therefore, it's all mitzachas to the Shemesh. So therefore, what's made here is taka the Shemesh itself. That's the Adar is in the Nim Shalamayla. Forget, the Midas Inin is in the Nim Shalamayla. The Nim Shalamayla, the Safkal Saf, the air has yet, Fisas Makim. The Emes Inin of Kolach Shiv is Daf Kalamayla. The Inin Gili is nothing. Outside of the Etzim, is Gili, is the idea of Gili something that expresses him? So you have the Eibush created a nivra. A nivra doesn't express it, but the idea of gilui, let's say the air is bottle, and it's not a mitzias, and it's calling yoni is gilui amakir. You see all these different biyurim. So this is the right being that should express the etzim. This is not a being b'chlal. Without the etzim, it doesn't exist. What the etzim is not mugbal, so it can be mispashtus. Take away the etzim, there's no mispashtus. So in such a case, if it's on mitzad the etzim, you have the inyan of gili. So that gili reflects taka the entire etzim, because the gili is neveh mitzad the etzim saying itself. That's a different inyan. That's b'cholos. I mean, there's Mamer about this. It's not just I'm saying this is chassidus, but this is it says as a big tzara, but there's. Mekom kariyah me'ein Amer shalchein ish b'keich ein sof. V'yesh be'afilu ina she'en le'ili b'si b'shkot l'chas v'shalom. Shalchein yachlis hayad v'riyas yishmayim. Good. So let's go back to one word Rabbi says Psadiyuk. Now the shaila is, what does it mean? What does it mean b'chlal? That we say that the bleak volvelikus is the air is Ein Sof. You understand? The air gilei likus is Ein Sof. The Eibush is gilei. The air is bleak vol. It's nirgash. The Eibush is bleak vol is nirgash. What does it mean that the in tchila is meir in the air? What does that mean exactly? The fact that Atzmos is an independent being is meir begilui. So first of all, and mitzad the eri givarn the yesh happened not because the Ein Tchila is begilui. The Ein Tchila was kaviyachol materialized, affected in Bria Shemayim. But it's not mitzad the tunu of Gili. It's not that the nivra is not margish, that the reason why is in the tchila mitzad in the tchila of atzmas. In Herzach Hasudan Ebishter, which is in the tchila. But the nivra, the Bria vertach is mitzad the Gili of the in the tchila. It's not begili. In the yesh is not meir begili. The fact that he's a yesh is nevea mitzad because of atzmas. So the Rebbe says over here a word, but I don't see the Rebbe connects it. No one has the old anacha. I just want to see the. You have the old anacha. Anybody has the old one? Just want to see how they wrote it because this is. That's the old one. Just want to see how they wrote it. No, it's interesting. Diuk in Tanya. So I want to see how this is the old one. Yes, some part more clear. Okay. Oh. Yeah, Dia Kalashin Keach. Dia Kalashin Keach. You see this lashon? Dia Kalashin Keach. It says, what's the Dia Kalashin? It says in Tanya that the nivra is nivra bekeach einsof. It says Dia Kalashin Keach. Where is it? Dia Kalashin Keach. She'ene be'efin shel lev begilu efin shel helem. It's like in Nikra Ayin Canal. This prat. What's the she says over here that this inyam, the hers ma'avad the yesh, the fact that the bligvol, that's mer begilin there. That's nirgash in the air that the Eibusha is einsof, the Eibusha is bligvol. The ein leitchil, it's not that it's mer, that because it's mer in the air, the fact that the Eibusha is independent being, so the mele is gevar na yesh. Menami said it's no of gili. Fakert, where's misbata the fact that in the air you have the idea of ein leitchila, is in the fact that that the air is not mer begilin, in the bittul air. And the fact that the air can be mahav and ifan of ayin. Why is that the nivra is a yesh? From my nevert is that the nivra is a yesh, that the nivra is a mitzvah. Why do you need the keichasmos? If this has to be in a way that the nivra would feel its makar, if this has to be inside the tnu of gili only, so then the nivra would feel its makar. It wouldn't have to be keichasmos. But because this house the nivra is an ifan of yesh ma'ayin, that means that the dvar avay is be'ein arech beyond. Legabe the nivra the air is not a mitzvah. Legabe the nivra the air is be'ein arech. So this is not mitzvah the tnu of gili. Means the air is mahava the yesh in a eifin that the air is not a mitzias legabe the yesh. It's not a mitzias legabe the nivra. In them is misbat the keich in safu. This in the air has within it the tchil is in the fact that the air is pale in a eifin of helim, an eifin of heder amtzis, an eifin of esalmus. Not an eifin of mitzias. The regular musik of air is that it's gili v'hergish. The inyanim are nisgale v'nirgash. That's air. It's begili. The idea in Leitchila is not mere begili behergish, that it's nirgash that asks in Leitchila and therefore Gavar Nayesh. That's nicht das Gavar. It's nirgash the fact that it's in Leitchila. It's not nirgash the fact that it's in Leitchila. What's mere is in Bintzias there's an idea that the air, there's a reality that there's the air and the air is an eifin of his alms. In Elamis, there's a air mahav, there's a dvar avaya, and this dvar avaya is be'ein arech further than the yesh. And the air is mahava the yesh in a way that he stays this almos of the yesh, that he's not made in the yesh. And the fact that the air could be effective in the eifin of his almos gemura, in them brings place to keich einsof. The fact that the air, so in the helm of the air, that the air is bis almos. I just want to see the Tanya. We had a Tanya last time. We still have the Tanya there. I'll use this lashon is very interesting. This diuk. This is a word in this mind. Anybody looked up the Yigaris Simcha? Anybody looked up the Yigaris? Because in some Avad there's a touch in this diuk, but the Rebbe touches this diuk a little different. Here he says like this. Says מוס בסם של המעצל, שמוס בנולד של החוד בשנה, סמוך למעצל של כדי שיהיה יש הנברא הזה. Bekeach Ein Sof, Bagvul Amida, and Slavish Ein Sof Bekelim. It says, it's a modern Lashon. It says, the Kav is Me'er Ein Sof. The Kav is Me'er Ein Sof, which since the Eir is Me'er Amar, Musav Atzmusay, so he's Mahav the Yesh. Good. So since the Kav is Ein Sof, She'er Ke'ein Amar, Musav Atzmusay, gives the whole Cheshbon. Hu Levad Bekeach B'chot. And he says, Ukdeishi Yesh Hazeh, Hanivra Bekeach Ein Sof, Bagvul Amida, Neslabish Ein Sof Bekelim. Ukdeishi Yesh Hazeh, Hanivra Bekeach Ein Sof. What does it mean Bekeach? What does it mean this Bekeach Ein Sof? He's saying that Havas is Adeh This the whole what he brings in the middle over here, that if you don't have a time here, you understand what I'm saying? The other one understands what I'm saying. I'm going to say the zesting, but the lashon. He says like this: Yutz finish vehem aluba shakav me'erin sof sho'eru ke'ein amar hum hozav v'asur shalamatzel, which is hu levad v'keich v'chod v'shmayim v'efes amuchat mamish. Believe it's shimus even if it's kadon kadesh zeh. So what's that Rebbe explaining here? Why? How could the Eir be Mahav Bekeach? Since the Eir is Me'ein Amar, which what's the Mar Muhusav Atzmusay, and Dafke, why did Muhusav Atzmusay create a Yesh? So Alter says because only Muhusav Atzmusay could create a Yesh, and Nas, but who's Mahav the Eir? Since the Eir is Me'ein Amar, so the Eir is Mahav. Then when he starts saying how this thing happens, Lepel, how does this happen? It says K'deishi Ya Yesh Hazan Nivra Bekeach Ein Sof. So now, how does he call who's Mahav? Be'eze in is the Eir is Mahav the Yesh. It's K'deishi Ya Yesh Hazan Nivra Bekeach Ein Sof. Bagvul Amida, Neslavish Ein Sof Bekelim. You should have said, K'deishi Yesh Hazan Nivra Be'erin Sof. Bagvul Amida, why does he Bekeach Ein Sof? So Samavavi says that he wants to be madgish that K'deishi Yesh Hazeh Hanivra with the Kecha Muhusi but Mitzusi Matzmusi, which isn't there. That's what he says in Samavavi. If he would just say K'deishi Nivra Hazeh Be'erin Sof, so it wouldn't bring out that the Erik is kel within itself. The Husav Atzmus, even though you just said a second ago, that the Eir Mein Amar, whom Husav Atzmus. So why would you have to? But as Psazir Zaktan Samavav, the Bekeach Ein Sof means when you say Stam Eir Ein Sof, it means the in of Espashtus. He wants to be madish that the Eir is Mahav. The Amitis Ein Sof is Bekeach Ein Sof, but then it attaches it differently. Kedish, the Eif and the way this Havas is not mitzvah the Tnu of Eir. The Eir is Mahav, but mitzvah the Tnu of Keach, mitzvah the Tnu of Helim. The Eir is in a Tnu of Keach, not in a Tnu of Helim, and not in a Tnu of Gili when it comes to the idea of Shabbos. Where is K'deishi Yesh Hazeh Nivra? The Nivra Avada the Eir is Shabbos the Eir. But where is this fact that the Eir contains within itself the Em L'Tchila? That's not in the Tnu of Sagili, which is in the Eir. That's in the fact that the Eir is Mis'alim. The fact that the Eir is Mis'alim, in that you have the Tnu. And there's the fact that the Eir made Amar. The fact that the Eir is Mis'alim and he's Mahava Nivra in a way that he's not Nirgash in the Nivra, that's a Tnu in the Eir. It's not Stam that the Eir is Gili and Shem Elakim is Mailim. The Eir is Mahava Nivra Na'ifin that the Eir is Na'ifin of not being Nirgash in the Nivra. The Eir is not Tnu of his Amos. The fact that the Eir could be Mahava Na'ifin that he's Bis Amos, that's inside the Ein L'Tchila which is in the Eir. The fact that the Eir could be Mahava Nivra, Na'ifin that the Nivra should be detached of him. So the Nivra is detached of him. It's not nirgash the Eir of the Nivra. That's because the Eir while selecting him the Ein L'Tchila. But it's not an Eifin of Gili. There is in Yana that the Eir is mashpiyim vel the Tnu of Eir. Here's a Tnu of Helim. Eir in Yana is Gili Elikus. Here the Eir is the Eir is pale in an Eifin of Helim, not an Eifin of Gili. That's what the Rebbe says Lashon Keach, because the Eir is pale in an Eifin of Keach. The fact that you have the Indian of Ein L'Tchila in the Eir is mizbat and the fact that the Eir has an Indian of not Gili, of Helim. And what's Mashiach that it's Begili, that it's the Eir has a Tnu of Esalmus. The Eir has a Tnu of being Mahav and Eifin of Richel. It's not Atzmus. That's a Tnu. But you say that's a different type of idea.
It's like two opposites.
Huh? The Rebbe is saying here it's not mizbat and the Metzias Ha'er. Saying the Metzias Ha'er is this Adeikum Tesluch. The Metzias Ha'er there's the Metzias Ha'er. The Metzias Ha'er is Gili. Gili means that it's Meir and Mizgala. Ein L'Tchila is not Meir. It's not that the Eir in Tzav, it's Meir Begili, the idea of Ein L'Tchila. Ein L'Tchila is Ein L'Tchila is Mizbata and the fact that the Eir is Mizbata. That there's a Tnu of Helim there. That the Eir is Mizhav and Eifin of Richel. But the Metzias the Inyan Agili itself, dort nicht stays in the Tchila. Understand what I'm saying? The fact that the air has within itself an Inyan, that it can be Mahav and Eifin of Ayin, and Eifin of Helim, that's because the air contains within itself the expression of the Ein Tchila. But how does it express the Ein Tchila? And the fact that that the air is misbattled from the Inyan Agili. It's not regular that it's nirgash ein Tchila. That's not nirgash ein Tchila nicht in dem dik zechei is ein Tchila. Because the ein Tchila has something to do with Gilui. The idea of Gilui, ein Tchila is beyond the idea of Gilui. We're saying that an air exists in Yanim which are beyond the idea of Gilui. That's what we're saying.
It's not Helen either. No.
It's nirgash. There's a mitzias of air, and this air is in a mahava in a way that it doesn't have to pervade the process of esavus. That's a mitzias. You see, a rav is mashpia in a hidden way. So you're saying about a tnu of gilui. There's a certain eifin of ashpa where the ayin is meruchet from the yesh. But it's tnu of richuk, a tnu of esalmus. The air is not tnu of esalmus. It's not. But I'm saying it's not that the Ein Tchila is meir like the Ein Sof is meir in there. It's not different Eifin. The way the Ein Tchila plays itself out in the air is not the way the Ein Sof plays itself out in the air. The fact that the Eibishter's Ein Sof is Begilui, the Eibishter's Ein Sof is Begilui. His Ein Sof is apparent in the air. What is the air? The Eibishter's Bligvol. That's what is the Gili? The Gili is Ein Sof. In Yani is the Eibishter's Ein Sof Miles. And the Eibishter's Ein Sof is Pashtus. That's what the air is. The fact that the Eibishter is independent, this Ein Tchila Inyan, that's not that it's mere Begili the Ein Tchila. The fact that there is no need for it, that in Nagili is Mizbatel. The fact that the air is Payal and Eifin of Helim, dort Gitzachar is the Ein Tchila. It's not in the Metzias of air itself. As I said, this is a mile in the Yesh and Malchus, they got the air. Because in the Yesh and Malchus, in the Yesh, you have the Keach Ein Sof Gufa. In the Metzias HaYesh, you have the Metzias Atzmas. In Eir, the Metzias of Eir is Gili Elokus. Gili is that it's that's Hertach the Ein Tchila. Gili is that the Eibishter is a mucker for things. The Eibishter is a mucker for the essence of Ein Tchila is not Meir, the Metzias of Eir. The Metzias of Eir, the fact that Ein Tchila is Meir in Eir, that's through the bittul of Inyan Eir. Understand this idea? This needs a beer. I'm just saying you understand the Eir is Hepach in the Ein Tchila. Here the Rebbe says Hepach in the Ein Tchila is because Eir is Arabal Vat. The whole idea of Eir is that it's independent, that it's fully dependent. The Gilui is dependent on the Meir. So a dependent being can't be Meir, the tnu of independence. The whole musik of Gilui, of Hergesh, that's an extension to that. To know that the Etzem is independent, that's not Meir in the Gilui. But it's more than that. It's more than that. The Inyan of Ein Tchila is a the musik of Ein Tchila has to do with the fact that the Etzem is not connected to any idea at all. That's the Ein Tchila. He's not based on any Inyan. Gilui is that a certain. But the definition of Gilui is that a certain mile is a certain greatness. If it's a greatness, it's not the true Ein Tchila. Any musik of greatness is already a titzah. The etzem itself, there's no ideas, there's no inyan. It's just him. That inyan is not mere the tnu of Gilui of Eir. That's the fact that the Eir is misbat. That's what I'm saying. And the tchila is a different type of inyan. If it's made in Gilui, if it's made in Hergesh, means that you're margish that there's an inyan nifla. The Eibishter is great. He's independent. If it's that idea is yesh le'tchila. That idea is not independent. That idea is already a titzah. Any musik of greatness, any musik of hergish. So the inyan, the way it's misbat and hergish, is shenish de in the tchila. The fact that any tchila is married in air is in the bittul air, the tune of Helim, which is there. Okay, but let's see the way the Rebbe says it. I don't know if I'm saying it's right. I mean,
is the way it's poyum, or it's something even before it's poyum?
The fact that it sounds like more than that. The fact that the Keach Atzmos exists in the air is not an Eifin of Eir Begili. That's the mashmos.
So if you look at the identity of this Earth,
As I said, it says that Lepoil, there's a mile in Malchus and in Yesh, which you don't have in Eir. There's a mile in Malchus and in Yesh you don't have in Eir. What's the mile? The mile is that in Malchus and in Yesh, they're mitzias. In their mitzias, you have the Keach Atzmus. What's the nature of Yesh? In Leitchila. In that nature, in Darten Shtek the Keach Atzmus. In Eir, the nature of Eir is bittul to the Mar. The nature of Eir is Gilui. In the Tnu of Gilui, Diksich Nishtei Zein Leitchila. The fact that the Eibusher is fully independent and not connected to any ideas, that's not revealed to the Eir. In Leitchila means not only he has no makar, but he's not. There's no ideas that he's connected with. The Eir is not Megala, this is the Kodet, that the Eibush is not connected to any ideas. Because the whole idea of Eir is that the Eibush is Blikvul, mainly it's Mizgala. It's connected to, there's a musik of Gilui. Gilui is an idea. The Eibush is Mizgalas. The fact that the Elokus is not connected to any ideas, that's not Mizgala in there. And in the Tnu of Gilui, is not Mayer that there's no ideas. Gilui, where is it Mayer the Tnu of Ein Leitchila in the Bittul that the Eir is Mahav and Eifen of Richuk, that he doesn't have to express himself, that there's no need for Eir. That's where the Ein Leitchila is Mizbat.
Something that's not in Leitchila, when it's Mahaf, it has to be Gugalit, like that's by definition, yeah?
Huh? Yeah. But I'm saying, but where is it expressed in the Eir? If it be the Eir, there's Gilui, and in the Gilui is Ein Leitchila. If there's Gilui, that's a stirrer for Megali Ein Leitchila. Gilui means that the Eibush has a certain idea, and he's a God, Tachlis HaGadlus, and B'meili is Bizgalus. Ein Leitchila is all these ideas don't exist. The Inyan of Gilui doesn't exist. Nothing exists. There's only him. Only him. So we're housing his batan there. That the Eir also says that there's only him, and he ceases to exist. The Eir is Mizbatan. Dorten gets Cherez Ein Leitchila. Such a word. The way the Keach HaAtzmus is in the Yesh is not the way the Keach HaAtzmus is in the Eir.
this idea in O is the fact that when it creates an O.
I just remember, you have to remember one thing. Eir is Gilui. Eir is Gilui. That the fact that the Eibusher is Begilui. The idea that the Eibusher is Begilui doesn't contain within itself the fact that the Eibusher is not connected to any ideas. So that's what. So, but the Eir has the Ein Leitchila. But that's misbat in the fact that the Eir does not have to be Begilui. Dorten gets the Sares.
Where do you see that idea? When it
That is Mahava Yesh. So the Eir is Neifin of his Almas.
So it's in that detail when it's Mahava
Yeah,
Yesh.
there, Dorten gets Charetz that the Eir has to do with the Amitis Elikus. But you have a mile in the Yesh, because in the Yesh, the Tnu of Yesh Guf is connected to Atzmus. But there is a Bas Legani Aleph that why is there B'Tachtein Adafin? Because the Yesh is an Atzmus. Shaken Eir, but we just said over here that the Eir is Ben Amar, no? So why are we saying this? There says what's the whole mile of the Dafkin B'Tachtein Meisa? Because you remember the Mamer, right? There says that the Eir in the Yesh is Atzmus. Mainly, if you work on the Yesh, you're going to find the Atzmi there. But shaken Eir is Marda Megal and the Mer. Say that, but Eir is the Echet in the Tchila, it says over here. But the Eir's Mitzias is not in the Tchila. Eir's Inyan is the fact that the Eibusher is Begilui, which is a certain idea. The fact that he's Bezgalis. The fact that he's not connected to any ideas, that's not the idea of Eir. The Ein Leitchila, the fact that Eibusher is not connected to any Ilav Siba, that's not what Eir is. Since Eir is bottle, it brings that out too. That's different. That's not what its content is about. That's not what its function is. Eir's function is to bring out that the Eibusher is Begilui. That the Eibusher has ideas. Not that he doesn't have ideas. But it happens to be that even though the Eir is to express the fact that the Eibusher is the greatest thing, he also reveals that he's beyond great. But that's not what its Tnu is. Mashik in the Nivra, in Yanni is not to bring out the Eibusher's greatness. The Yanni of the Nivra is that the Eibusher is not, that he doesn't have to be great. That's what the Mitzias of Nivra is. The Mitzias, the Yesh is a Keli Tatzmos, is a Dira Tatzmos. Because the Yesh is not to bring out the Eibusher's greatness. Just the very fact that the Eibusher is, without any ideas. Mashik and Eir's idea is to bring out the Eibusher's greatness. But Afal became it, had a bit of Eir to the Mar, he contains this aspect too. But it's not Nizgal in its Mitzias. The Etzem Drasha that I'm saying now, das steht. But I don't know if that's pshat here, in this manner, that's what I'm saying. The Rebbe says the part of the Eir is have a nefin of Helam, but the Etzem fact that in of Keach Ein Tzav is not in the Mitzias Eir, in its bittul, but in the Eir, das steht noch so. That's not, but even the Sikha, the Rebbe speaks about, I think it's a Shabbos HaGadol Sikha, the Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch, that it's funny. The Rebbe speaks these inyanim in a sikha that you wouldn't be expecting it to be there. But there's a sikha about that the Shanim, Shabbos HaGadol is a minute that the Rabbanim give it Rasha, Shabbos before Pesach. Huh? I think it's called Dalet or Gimel. So the Rebbe says over there that not like the Heintik of Shanim, that the Rebbe says the Iker is that they should speak Avar Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, Darche Hashem Epis. Later, Samaisa Shayasun, the Rebbe uses the Lashon that the Av Yir is Darche Hashem or something. So there's the whole thing that Av, there's the Maisa Misses, the Av Yir. So the Av Yir are Darche Hashem. Maisa, they're the Drachim, they're the ways that the Ratzon Hashem established in the Maisa. And the Etzim is in the Maisa, but the Av Yir is the Drachim that the Etzim is nimshach to the Maisa. They were connected to this idea that Be'etzim, the Atzim is connected to the Maisa mitzvahs. But who's the Drachim to bring the Etzim to the Maisa? So a derech, the idea doesn't relate to the derech, but he's the right path to bring this idea to that idea. The yesh is linked to atzmos, but the yesh can only come. The atzmos come to the yesh through the er. That means the er is a good path that anything can pass through the er. But the idea of in the itchil is not the er's in. There's a look at the sikha. Yeah, but here the ikar v'zach is this interesting diuk. In some above, I just want to show you this. Even though the Elm is not learning it here, but just this word, some above also starts on the lashon keach ein sof, but he says different. Says a little bit different. Some above it says, there should be two places. But it's good to look up this Mamer maybe. Okay. This little piece, but he says. Idea keach ein sof. That's what that idea. He says to bring God keach ein sof. He wants to be madgish that the fact that the has this ein sof of atzmos is mitzad ein sof. He wants to be madgish that this idea of ein sof is not related to the but it's mitzad atzmos. It's this is the true idea of Ein Sof. So that's why he says that this Havas Hanivra idea bekeach Ein Sof. The reason why that the Rebbe writes the lashon bekeach Ein Sof is to bring out that this element of Ein Sof which is expressed in the air doesn't belong. It's not the air's Ein Sof. It's Atros' Ein Sof which is expressed through the air. That's why we use the lashon bekeach Ein Sof. But that doesn't explain why you use the lashon bekeach. You use a different lashon. It's Havas Hanivra idea be'atzvach. It's a different lashon. What's bekeach? What's the lashon keach? So it's not Geshira Keach is because the way this Indian is misgal in the air is when the air is in the Tnu of Helen. That's Bekeach. Keach is the same way Keach, Lamad Musik of Keach and air. Air is Pel and Efen of Gila and Keach is Pel and Efen of Helen. So the Rebbe wants to say that the fact that the air is misgal in the Indian Litchila, that's a Tnu of Helen. Okay, this is then, at the end, it's interesting. I never saw this touch. It's a Mechudish touch. This Nekuda, let's look in the Fidigamas Parak a second. The Fidigamas doesn't bring this whole Arichis at the Eres and stuff. Just look in the beginning. There was touching up. It says, that the Gilin is Pashas is Blig Vol, the Gilin is everywhere, and it's Pshitis, Blig Vol Klal, that's Erin Sof, the Eres Ein Sof, Erin Mein Amar, Zoyin Maas Er, the Erin Im Shuar Levad, Mikonkin is Amash Mein Amar. V'liyeh Sha'atzos of Pchinas Pshitis of Pchinas Ein Sof, L'chein Egam Er Shemein Amar of Pchinas Ein Sof. This whole ket is what the Rebbe is explaining till now. The figure doesn't say clearly that the Eir is Ein Sof and the Musik of Ein Tchila, but if you look in the Fidigamas Lashon, he has himself over a couple of times. I don't know where, but he says the same thing a couple of times. The Gilib is Pashas B'chinas B'likvul. The Zok Hashem the Shem Ein Sof, the Eir Atzmi Ein Sof. So we should not get it that the Eir Sof is good. What's the reason why the Eir is Sof? Because Eir Mein Amar. That's the mile of Eir, even though it's Eir Levad. Konkin is Amash Mein Amar. V'liyeh Sha'atzos B'chinas Pshitis B'chinas Ein Sof. Chani Amer Mein Amar B'chinas Ein Sof. V'zeu Eir Sof She'eir Atzmi B'chinas Ein Sof. There's a little bit. What's V'zeu Eir Sof She'eir Atzmi B'chinas Ein Sof? Said it a bit. V'zeu Kriya Shem Ein Shad Eir Atzmi Ein Sof. I'm saying it's a little bit. I don't know where the Rebbe is seeing it, but it could be this lashon. V'liyesha atzmos v'chinas pshitis v'chinas ein sof means that the air is megal the ein sof of atzmos. Maybe that's the subject. Okay. But the Rebbe says here as Azach. This is Mavar ba Mamer. This is not Doshtiktish in the Mamer. The Frika was on before this. He says, what's the pshat? Mashkat v'kanezer. She'en etzef lomata adin tachlis. It's a political touch. I never saw this touch. I don't see the Frika attaching it this way. It was touching. What's the pshat lomata adin? How does the Frika attach lomata adin tachlis? Shagili v'ayspashis v'kanezer etzef b'blik v'klav. Yeah? That means that there is a spashat everywhere. There is a spashat everywhere. The Rebbe touches here. What's the pshat lomata adin tachlis? What's the pshat? The gili v'spashis v'bchines in sof. Shaydezen nase brias kol seder ashtashlos ad mata adin tachlis. The mata adin tachlis brings out erin stuff itself. It comes a big touch according to the Rebbe saying. The mata adin tachlis means that what does it mean that the air is mispash the mata adin tachlis? That the air is mahava and beire. Biz even a bria of the mata adin tachlis. That's the way the Rebbe says it in the Bible. Mata and tachas brias kol seder shtashlos biz lamata mata adin tachas. Not that the air permeates everything. Lamata adin tachas that the air affects everything, creates everything. Biz even creates lamata mata adin tachas. Even creates the yesha nivra, which that's misbat in the words lamata mata adin tachas. The fact that the air is mahava the yesha nivra, which is lamata mata adin tachas, and that brings chareis the ultimate insof of the air. So if we would have just said in the Kunez air insof itself without adding lamata mata adin tachas, it's blikvul, but not the blikvul of atzmus. Once you say the mata mata in tachlis means that the eid is mahave. Can't say that it's shashlos. Biz the eid is mahave the mitzias elemus the mata in tachlis. So it's not only is mahave till the mata. We're not saying it's spashlos. We're saying it's spashlos in the sense that he's mahave the whole seder shashlos. And he's mahave the whole seder. That's eid is something. Spashlos means he's mahave the whole seder shashlos till he's mahave the elam hazat tachta. The mahave elam hazat tachta is after keach atzmus. So the fact that the air is mahava biz lamata mata de tachlis, that brings out the extent of air mein amor. So the mata mata de tachlis gets some air to convert. What's the pshat in the insaf of the air? So see, we're in this member, but that's in the Fikav's member. That's the touch that I was saying over here. You heard the touch. That's the pshat. It's going to say air mata de tachlis. What's the pshat of the Gilei Spashis is Ein Sof? That his Gilei Spashis reaches that he's Mahave the Lamata Mata de Tachlis. And that brings out the ultimate Ein Sof. Then the Rebbe continues. We'll just start. This Indian is I can't see Indian this sometimes, you know. Let's say. Mam Shabbat Mamer. This Indian is by Mr. Shver Indian to understand what the Rebbe is saying here in this paragraph. This whole Indian sphere saying Ketz, B'snish Aziklar. Leilum Sad this Indian. Mr. Shver is verstehen. Well, let's just start. Mam Shabbat Mamer. Hine me Eira Zay Ilmus is Firis Ati Ketz of Blik V'Klav. Yeah, so the Pajin learned from the what's the pshat? That from the Eir Ein Sof, since the Eir is Ein Sof, but if he's Blikvul, and he's Pshitis, he is not Shaykhist any Tzir, can vern from him else. Mitzad him himself can vern from him, V'hine me Eira Zay, how you Eilim Tzir, I think Ketz of Blikvul. If without a Tzimtzum, there would have been Blikvul Eilim and Sfiris. That's the... Hainu, so it touches like this. What's the word figure mean? Not that mitzad stamazet, the mitzad the air. Volt can sein from the air elam is blikvol. That's not what we mean. Mitzad this air, there could have been unlimited elements. It means a different word. Behind the kibun she'er shumein amar hu v'chnes ein sof. How they move in Shanavram Shavim and afilu k'meishem lamata rein be'efen shel blikvol amiti. Since the air is not stam ein sof, but the air is mein amar. The concept of the before. Since the air is mein amar and the ultimate ein sof of the air mein amar. So move on that also the Nevraim which are created through the air. And even the Nevraim, the way they are Lamata, they're going to be an Eifin of Blikvul. And ultimate and true Blikvul, Blikvul Amiti. Since the Blikvul of the air is the Blikvul of Atzmus. And the Blikvul of Atzmus is not it's not limited to any form. It's not limited to the form of air dafke. It's ultimate Blikvul. If it's ultimate Blikvul, then it should reflect itself in the fact that the Nevraim which come from this should be an Eifin of Blikvul. And even if Rhyme, the mitzad der geder, they should be gvul, even if Ram lamata should also be expressed gvul. If you're dealing with the blik vol of atzmos, the blik vol of atzmos has no definition klal. So his blik vol has no definition at all. It should have expressed itself. So mitzad that blik vol, even the nevraim that are nesav and elam hazeh should be an eifin of blik vol.
Why from that perspective is the mile in blik vol? Why should from that?
Unlimitedness. We're not saying that. Unlimitedness.
I thought it's whole Indian, there's no mile in blik vol.
So let's say, but mitzad that, you have that mitzvah saying something. That mitzvah blik vol.
From the perspective of mitzvah blik vol, full of blik vol.
The evidence speaks this nikudah b'gula b'gula b'shav. It's not what the Rebbe spoke of this nikudah over here. Saying the Ein Sof is since the air is made Mar, the Mar has no limits at all. It's blik vol amiti. So if it's blik vol amiti, so the nevraim, even the way he's mahav nevraim, in the nevraim should have been a tnu of blik vol amiti. In the nevraim that he created, the nevraim he created nevraim. His Ein Sof should have affected the nevraim that he creates too.
Why would it specifically have to be in this detail? It could be in...
Unlimitedness, ain't safe. Heterak bal.
But his Indian was never Mamer the Tnuah specifically blik vol. So when that's expressed, fine. It's going to express an Ivram in Indian blik vol, even though it's a stira to it or whatever.
Stira, why is it stira? I don't get where I don't know where you got to that blik vol became a stira.
If it's not blik vol amiti,
yeah.
then
if it's not blik vol amiti, then his blik vol has a certain hagbal, a certain tchum.
so,
And Ivraim lamata are not a keli to blik vol. Ivraim lamata are Ivraim lamata.
so when you have blik vol amiti, it gives the ability to do this.
Blik vol amiti, there's no limit where his blik vol could express itself. There's no form and limit where his blik vol could express itself. So it expresses itself even that there's in Ivraim lamata there's blik vol.
But it's for the Tnuah blik vol.
Say that,
but this Tnuah blik vol.
Say that, yeah.
The Tnuah blik vol
Ain't
just
so.
it could express itself in different. It's not limited where it can express itself, but it's a Tnuah blik vol. So
That's what it sounds like. I'm saying.
There's a difference. So from that perspective, there's a difference in Vulam blik vol mitzad. It's in it, not where it can express itself.
We're not going into this prat. You're saying about he's not mukbal and blik vol, but pashtos. You're saying not his ultimate Ein Sof. If it was just a blik vol which relates to the idea of then the blik vol should have a limit to where it could express itself. In him, he's blik vol. He could be everywhere. He could create anything. But in the things that they created, that there should express the blik vol, the fact that his blik vol should be apparent and that there's blik vol in the brand that he created, that's apparent. That's only because the air is made Amar, the Ein Sof Hamid. That's what it sounds like. Does that understand? I'm not saying that's. Gaman Evrem Shes Haviki. There is lashon in the Old Anoch. It says Me'achar She'eru Ein Sof. In the Gaman Evrem Shes Havim Mimenu. Ad Gaman Evrem Shalamata. Means in Evrem Shalamata, this world. Yesh Be Me'ini the Blik Vol Amiti. And the emes is this part of Fidik explains that even though there was a tzimtzum, but since the air is Ein Sof, so even after that tzimtzum, the blik vol, the fact that it's Ein Sof is misbatel. It sounds this because the amit is Ein Sof. Does not understand, but I'm just saying what it's a chiddush. But Pashas, you don't say chiddush, the air is Ein Sof, but Nevram Lamatar Gvol. So the fact that it's Ein Sof is not Meir Begili. Here we're saying if it's Ein Sof, so there cannot be a tchum where he is or where he's not. So even after tzimtzum, but if his blik vol is unlimited, even after tzimtzum he's going to be expressed. It's not going to be a stir at the tzimtzum.
He has to be expressed in a way that will affect reality.
If it was a blik vol that a shaykhs the psatsura, so then if there was a tzimtzum, so blik vol can be misfashioned after there was a tzimtzum. But if you did it with amitas blik vol, which is blik vol amiti, which has no definition at all, so even after that tzimtzum, there's going to be a tnu blik vol.
Why does it have to be in their reality?
What? That expresses the fact that it's Ein Sof Hamiti. Since the earth is Ein Sof Hamiti, so therefore, even the Nevran, the way they are Lamata, there's a Nekuda Blik Vol in these Nevran. That's only because the earth is Amitis Ein Sof. If the earth wasn't Amitis Ein Sof, so in order for him to be expressed, there was no Tzimtzum. But if there was a Tzimtzum, Nevran Lamata, which they're a result of Tzimtzum, what nicht gedarf sein an expression of his Blik Vol. There's this almos. And beside this almos, there's gvul. Mash'eken, since he's Ein Sof Hamiti, there is no form, no definition. So it is blik vol. So even in our nivra, which is a result of tzimtzum, there's going to be a bit of his blik vol. Because his blik vol has no definition at all, has no form at all. This comes the hemshach to the Ein Sof, to the Ermein Amor. If it was a blik vol, the way it relates to the idea of gilui, then it would be a limited musig of bli gvul. And the basic limitation is that where you let him be, he is. But when there's a tzimtzum, when there's gvul is a stira to bli gvul. There's a certain form, in order for his bli gvul to be expressed, you have to suit to his form, to the form of bli gvul. But since we're dealing with Hamitis Ein Sof Hamiti is that he's the true bli gvul, which has no definition at all. So even in Evraim Kveshim Lamata, the way, and after the tzimtzum was pile, the bli gvul is still there. That's what I was saying over here. This is the Akdama. Versteht the word?
If he has no tzir, why does it have to be lamata and a bleed will take away?
That's the bit. The bit of the fact that his bli gvul is mispashet everywhere. That's a rai that his Ein Sof has no tzir. If the Ein Sof would have episode tzir, so then the nivra, the way it is lamata, is a result of tzimtzum. So the tzimtzum is not a to the bli gvul. Mitzad the tzimtzum can ishmer and the bli gvul b'makom tzimtzum. Where you say there's a meir you have a limited room. And a limited room can't be meir unlimited light because the room is going to be cancelled. In a limited place can't be meir bli gvul. But you have bli gvul amiti, even in a limited place there could be an expression. There's going to be bli gvul. That's what we're saying. Because his Ein Sof has no limitations at all.
He's so bleak full that why does he have to be bleak full in order to be? He could fit into the tzir of the tzimtzum and still be bleak full. No?
So I want to say that it's expressed, that it's the gilu, that the eir is bli gvul, the gilu is bli gvul. Where do you see that the gilu is Ein Sof? It's begili, not behelim. Begili is that his gili reaches it everywhere. His gili is Ein Sof Hamiti. It's Mer Begili bli gvul Hamiti. Where's Mer Begili bli gvul Hamiti? That even Achrat Tzimtzum, the Metzias HaNivra has a nekuda of bli gvul. Where I say that it's Mer Begili. His bli gvul is Bizgalus. Where's the bli gvul Bizgalus? And an Eifin of Amitas Ein Sof. How is the Amitas Ein Sof Bizgalus? That even in Evrayim Lamata, there's a gili lepoil of his bli gvul. It's nikr lepoil of his bli gvul. And there's Maschel Avar in from the highest target. He starts explaining this in it that the bli gvul is not just the Eiris bli gvul, but that it's meir on all levels, it's meir begili on all levels. The fact that it's meir begili on all levels, that expresses the fact that it's Ein Sof Hamiti. He starts explaining it from the highest darkness. I'll have to see the Sfiras and Ketz because it needs a beer, the sin of Sfiras and Ketz. We'll just look at the Lashon. This one of the verter of this Mamer is that what's the pshat? Eir pshat eir and stuff. This pashtus is not only that the eir is everywhere, but that the eir is that his bli gvul is nicker everywhere. His bli gvul is begili on all levels. That's the chiddush. In Chassidus you have the fact that since on afki pshuta is the Rebbe says you have different dargis in eir. The Chassidus says that you have legabi the eir and stuff shlifnat tzimtzum. The tzimtzum is not mine. I mean, it's at him. He's begili involved. So if he's amitis ein sof, there can't be a phase in reality that he's not that his gili doesn't come. Because if there's a phase that his gili is not coming, that means that his gili is mugbal. But here the Rebbe is saying not only is a phase that mitzad him his reality is there, and there's going to be an expression of his bli gvul. In any phase of being, even a phase of being of tzimtzum of gvul, there's an expression of bli gvul. Even though mitzad hagbala l'chora it's gesastir. But because the eir is amitis ein sof, there's taken no hagbalas. The beginning of where is expressed his bli gvul begali, that's in the Sfiras and Ketz. Okay, we're going to have to Sfiras and Ketz, we're going to have to see. You looked up the Mekayris, the Teres Chaim. It's a bit of a shver in it a little bit. Okay, we'll have to see how to do it. The Rebbe mixes two inanim here also. There's Sfiras and Ketz with the Brudim, with the Eskalus of Atzilus. It's a bit of a shver in. It's not an easy Indian. Okay, we'll try to work it out. It's Wednesday. If you could start Thursday, we'll see if you could start Thursday the senior. Put mentions in. It's not easy now, I'm saying. It's also, the not Mugadik and Mamer, this is the Rebbe's language itself. It's the Sinish as a Pashit.
They worked on it, I think.
Who worked on it? No, I'm saying, but first of all, there's a tape, and also you have this Sanach. No, I'm saying is that you have Mugadik and Mamer, so the Hanach is written sometimes in a little bit Ezgetaish Tagdaris. The Rebbe's Magia, those Agdaris. But the Rebbe's language itself, you have to. It's a whole different story. Good, okay.